If you're an athlete, you know the greatest motivator of all is the fear of letting your teammates down. After all, a team is only as good as its weakest link. So you owe it to those wearing the same jersey as you to be your best every time you step on the field. That's why there's no vape in team. When you vape, you can expose your lungs to toxic chemicals that can damage your lungs. If you're a step behind, the team's a step behind. Brought to you by The Real Cost and the FDA.
This episode is brought to you by Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. In breaking news, leading scientists worldwide are conducting experiments to determine if Reese's Peanut Butter Cups are the perfect combination of peanut butter and chocolate. However, it appears the study was inconclusive, as the scientists couldn't help but eat all the Reese's. Because when you want something sweet, you can't do better than Reese's. Find Reese's now at a store near you.
Hey, do you have an idea for a podcast but don't know where to start? Or do you have an already existing podcast that you want to take to the next level? Well, check out WeKnowPodcasting.com. From concept development to theme music to editing to logos, WeKnowPodcasting.com is a one-stop shop for all things pod. Don't hesitate to hit us up. We're very nice.
Well, there's a party each and every year on Christmas Eve, where the fun and cocktail shrimp don't seem to end. Clark and Ralphie taking turns on the TV screen, laughing, singing, yelling with all of our friends. Well, it's Christmas, and everybody's gonna spread the holiday cheer. 'Cause it's Christmas. Oh, it's the best time of the year.
Hey, Dylan.
Dude, Matt, I'm sitting here. I've got an iced sugar cookie almond milk latte from Starbucks. I've got this marshmallow pumpkin candle lit next to me. We're in the belly of the beast.
We're in the thick of it right now.
We are in the thick of it. Let me ask you a question before we get into our topic today. Do you feel like this might just be me because, I teach 6th grade English. I'm out in the public all the time. Even during the pandemic, I have to leave the house, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel like there is more people like getting down on those trying to celebrate the holidays earlier this year? Especially compared to last year. Like last year, everybody was like, let's give it a pass because we're stuck inside. But now I'm seeing like, yes, stuff is out early, but I've always had the feeling that you can't be like, yay, Halloween's out in July, and then bitch about Christmas stuff.
So I've been trying to do a little bit more messaging on Instagram. I searched the hashtag Christmas memes, and I'll tell you, for every one meme that was like, yo, you can't kill my fucking Christmas vibe, there's been some pissed off memes about people caring that it's Christmas in November.
Yeah, but people are angry. I mean, even my students, November 1st, man, I always wear my elf shirt and I'm always rocking Christmas music. I'm the kind of person that in November, I'll go back and forth. Like yesterday, I wasn't listening to Christmas music. Today, when we rode over to Starbucks, I was bumping Reliant K's Christmas album.
Yeah.
So I'll go back and forth in November. But I put the music on and some of my students were like, it's not Christmas yet. And I'm looking at them like, why so much negativity? So much hostility.
I almost commented on a meme and I was like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
But the meme was like Santa Claus being yelled at by a turkey. And the turkey was like, listen, fat boy, this isn't your month. November's my month. December's your month. And I'm like, man, that turkey's really excited to be murdered.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
like-
I explained it like this. And I've seen the memes that do it like this as well. We've talked about it. November, Thanksgiving's not a season. Like
it's a weekend.
Exactly. You've got the Halloween season, you've got the Christmas season, you got Thanksgiving. And I try to tell my kids, I fucking adore Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving's great. It's great.
Like that week is amazing. But to me, it's always the kickoff to like the full-blown Christmas season.
Well, I'll tell you what, Dylan. You want to know something?
What?
There might be some haters out there.
Yeah?
There very well be, but I didn't tell you this. October was officially our highest numbers of all time.
October was our Oh my god, I love it.
We beat out
it.
December's numbers of last year
Holy
for the
shit.
first time. October was our most downloaded month in the history of the podcast.
Oh my god. So, if
there might be some people publicly shitting on it, but there is some people that like
are
us,
closeted
the
Christmas lovers.
Yeah, I love it.
Get it out there. Get it out
let's
there,
talk
man.
let's talk about something you wanted us to discuss. One of the earliest of my memory. I guess you wouldn't have been born yet.
No.
But for me, I remember this being like event television, like, oh, the Simpsons Christmas episode. And like, I didn't know who they were, but I saw the commercials, which showed Bart singing the Jingle Bells Batman Smells thing. And I'm like, I like that kid. And apparently so did the rest of America, because here we are 30 plus seasons later. The Simpsons are still going strong. And I'm not sure if you know this little tidbit. I'm going to tell you this little tidbit, and then we're going to dive into The Simpsons. That at one point, one of the Simpsons writers, I think it was around season 20 or 21 or 22, they really thought it was going to be the last episode of The Simpsons.
Yeah.
And they wanted to end the episode with The Simpsons driving to the kids' Christmas recital, to kind of not just for like a full circle thing, but to like stress the point that like the Simpsons exist in this eternal vacuum where they are the same age forever.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that would have been such a perfect fucking button
Ending.
on that show. Now it's too late. Like it's like,
It's
okay,
way
we're
too
like,
late. So my history with The Simpsons, I was never a huge fan of The Simpsons. I liked tidbits. I was always a fan of like the Treehouse of Horror stuff, even though as a kid, a lot of it did freak the fuck out of me.
dude, some of it is fucking scary.
Yeah, some of it's horrifying. And even some of the regular episodes can be a little dark. There was this kid I went to elementary school with who was obsessed with the Christmas comic or the Simpsons comics. That just made me not like The Simpsons even more. I mean, I don't want to like get on this kid, but I mean, it's not the type of kid that you want to hang out with. So you're like, okay, I just don't like The Simpsons. And it wasn't until like more recently in recent years that I've been getting into The Simpsons more and more and being like, okay, I'll watch this. Give me a little bit of background on The Simpsons themselves, if you know, because it's really weird to me that literally the first episode of The Simpsons is this episode.
There's a reason for that. It goes all the way back to Matt Groening as a cartoonist, right? He had this cartoon called Life in Hell, and then there was the Tracy Ullman show. It was one of the first shows ever on Fox. And they had this idea of like, oh, we should hire Matt to do Life in Hell shorts in between the commercial breaks.
Okay.
From what I understand, there was either some type of copyright thing with the newspapers with the Life in Hell stuff, or it was just that Matt wanted to do something else. But for whatever reason, that was scrapped, and instead he was like, I'm going to do these animated shorts based around my family. Most of them are going to have similar names to like my siblings. And it's like a snapshot of our lives. Okay. And those were way more popular than the actual Tracy Ullman show. Okay. Like, people loved the Simpsons segments and were like lukewarm on the Tracy Ullman show. So Fox was like, let's do a Christmas special of those characters. Okay. So this was supposed to be like kind of a standalone Christmas episode that, because it was so popular, immediately was like, we've got to produce more of this. Yeah. Like, it did such good numbers that they were like, get this show made. And it's really interesting when you're watching it, because the original, first of all, the animation is completely different than what we're used to with The Simpsons. The voices aren't quite right.
No, it's very reminiscent of when South Park Trey Parker had his original short, and the voices were kind of there, but not really. Like, one character even had a different voice than another character.
I think that those characters were still a little bit more fleshed out than even the Simpsons were, though, because like, it was very clear out the gate that when they created the show, they're like, Bart's our runaway star. He is the star of the show. So like the first like 2 or 3 seasons are almost all Bart centric episodes. Then it slowly turned into like, well, Homer's the star. And then, you get to like season 10 and it's like, let's find out what all the other people in Springfield are up to.
Yeah.
Like, I am not the world's biggest Simpsons fan. I do love The Simpsons. I love watching it. I love talking about it. Literally last night I had people over and we were quoting The Simpsons and laughing our asses off for like 2 hours. They are probably the most fully fleshed out animated city. You know what I mean? Like, there are close to 200 characters that like are all kind of iconic characters. Like, people who don't watch The Simpsons know who a large chunk of those characters
That's
are.
me. I can probably, seriously, I've probably seen maybe 20 full episodes of The Simpsons.
Yeah, but I'm sure that if I held up 50 photos of 50
I would know
people
who
that lived
they
in
were.
Springfield, you'd know at least 40 of them.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's Chief Wiggum. That's a poo. That's so
for sure. And I mean, there are like, even especially in our internet age, like, I know quotes and lines and memes and different
because they
things.
become like the meme factory.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So what happens with all of that is also, when you're watching this, you can't help but notice the big difference is also like Homer and Ned Flanders, I think, are the most uniquely different characters than what they became, in the sense of like Homer's not really depicted as that dumb in this episode. Like he's just kind of an oafish everyday husband. He's Archie Bunker, but he clearly loves his family and he's doing whatever he can to like make things work, but he's not like the childlike happy-go-lucky fool that he normally is. And then Ned Flanders really isn't this hyper religious person just yet. He's just the better version of Homer that Homer like compares himself to at all times. I think that that's kind of an interesting dynamic, how much that changes when you even jump a season later and you're like, okay, so now Flanders is like super religious, and that's why Homer hates him. And Homer is like the most buffoonish human being that's ever existed.
That makes sense. My first time watching this episode, funny enough, I feel like I'm going to get so judged here, was actually a couple years ago when FX picked up The Simpsons and they did
the marathon.
Every Simpsons ever. And I started recording them a little bit. And the first time I ever saw this episode was when it aired on FX for that marathon.
So let me ask you why you picked this particular episode.
So I picked this particular episode because it's something that I've been wanting to revisit for a while. And I remember when I watched it, for those of you unaware, FX picked up The Simpsons a couple years ago, but since then it's on Disney Plus now. Every episode's on there. It was a big deal. Like, they ran ads all day long that The Simpsons are coming to FX and we're going to show every single episode from beginning to
in
end.
order. In order of release. It's insane.
And it was amazing. It was like 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Yeah, talk
straight.
about event television. Like, every house I walked into for like 2 weeks had FX on with The Simpsons playing. It was literally the Christmas story, Christmas Day, but for 2.5 weeks or something.
And it happened in like the middle of spring. So like the first episode is this Christmas episode. And it, like, I just sat there and I was absolutely fascinated. I didn't know the origin of Santa's Little Helper. I didn't know where he had come from.
You knew who Santa's Little Helper was.
Exactly. I knew who Santa's Little Helper was, but I didn't know where he came from. And it's, again, my idea of The Simpsons is very much in a vacuum of these different episodes that I've seen over the years. Yes, I know the characters from everything else, but just not having this origin story or seeing these episodes in order. So just watching this episode for the first time, it absolutely warmed my heart. Like, I mean, did you cry? 100%. Like, I did.
See, and I didn't. There are Simpsons Christmas episodes that do make me cry. This one's almost, it's like not my Simpsons.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I see the structure there, but I think that like there are later episodes of The Simpsons, and especially later Christmas episodes of The Simpsons, where that absolute love between all four, well, I guess five, Maggie doesn't talk, but she's there. Like, all five of the Simpsons characters just like oozes through.
Yeah.
This one, like, it's definitely like the love of Homer for his family, which is like a really touching story to tell.
This episode is brought to you by Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. In breaking news, leading scientists worldwide are conducting experiments to determine if Reese's Peanut Butter Cups are the perfect combination of peanut butter and chocolate. However, it appears the study was inconclusive, as the scientists couldn't help but eat all the Reese's. Because when you want something sweet, you can't do better than Reese's. Find Reese's now at a store near you.
I only wrote down 2 notes while watching it, but it's also something that I've seen a million times.
Yeah.
I also think that it's not exactly the funniest of the Simpsons episodes.
No,
Like
it's very toned down.
Yeah. It's very 1989 humor for the teens too. Like it's like Bart and his friends are not very edgy by any standards.
No.
Now it's just like, oh, sit on Santa's lap and pull his beard. And it's like, oh, whoa.
Yeah. You guys aren't going to get as ridiculous as our friends over on American Horror Stories.
Yeah. Now, well, there's Jesus Christ.
That's a callback.
Eventually, we're going to do probably my favorite of the Christmas episodes, which is when Bart shoplifts a video game that he wants for Christmas. There's some great jokes in that episode. And that's what I think makes this episode hurt is like, there's only one joke that made me absolutely laugh out loud.
Yeah.
Which is towards the very end, they're at the dog race. This is how they get Santa's little helper. And Homer decides to not follow the advice he's been given, but to take a big risk and bet on Santa's little helper. And Santa's little helper sucks as a dog. And they're sitting there dejected. And Homer just goes, I don't want to leave until our dog finishes. and then it's like 15 seconds of silence. And he goes, oh, forget it.
Like this year, rewatching this episode has inspired me. If Teddy's up for it, I would love to do it. Is sit down and just watch the Christmas Simpsons episode.
I was going to call some bullshit if you're like, I think I'm going to watch all of the Simpsons.
No,
and I was
that's
like,
a lot.
oh, you're going to watch that right after you watch all of Degrassi and all?
Yeah, exactly. That's a lot. Not all of the
Scrubs.
Simpsons, but like the Christmas. Yeah, fuck you, dude. For those of you who don't know, I'm well known for watching one season of a show and being like, this is really good. I'm going to keep doing this. I'd rather do this. I mean, dude, that's me. That's me with everything. I think they call it ADHD. That's me with video games, dude. I just got Far Cry 6 and the newest Guardians of the Galaxy game, and I'm like, I'm gonna sit down and play these. But it's getting a little cooler out. It's making me want to go back and play Red Dead 2 from a couple years ago. And so I got like 20 minutes into Guardians of the Galaxy, and then last night I reinstalled Red Dead 2. So it's the same thing. I just can't.
So also on Geekscape is my buddy Derek Ranevelt, who does the Xbox Game Passengers podcast, where each month he picks a game on Xbox.
Yeah.
And he sits down with a guest and they play it and then discuss it. But like, I think even he would admit, like, this is the only way to get me to finish a game, because because it's like, oh, I have to do it for this thing. So like, I'm driven because it's like, it's got a deadline.
Yeah.
Versus like anything else is just like, ooh, new shiny toy. And then you like run off to the new shiny toy.
Well, our buddy Nate Dunn, he even commented on something that I posted where I had posted the games that I bought. And he's like, what is your ratio of completed games to games in your backlog? And I'm like, it's real bad, man. He's like, me too. And it's absolutely insane. My stack of games that I have not finished is insane. And I think it's because I do immerse myself in that world a lot. So I'm constantly listening to gaming podcasts where they're talking about what is the next thing that they've been playing. And I'm like, oh, I want to try that. I want to get that.
I feel like you've just unlocked in my brain why I don't like gaming. And I think it's because like I am a completionist.
You are.
I'm like, if I start something, I'm going to watch. Even at like, I finished fucking Riverdale. And I was like, I hated that by episode 2, but I was like, well, I've started it, so I've got to finish what I've started.
I am proud of you because I don't think you hate watch Raw anymore. So
no, I cut off of that, but I still follow. I still keep up with all the news.
Oh God!
So I know everything that's happening. Stop, guys! Take your shot. It's the the wrestling tangent of the podcast. But like, I'm aware that it's like, oh man, there is some of the best things happening in wrestling right now, but it's just like so fucking intimidating to be like, all right. If you want to keep up with everything that's happening, you need to dedicate a good 3 to 4 hours every day to watching all of these different promotions and like following this, that, and the other thing. And eventually I'm like, or I could just like spend 20 minutes listening to the Cultaholic news recap and be like, okay, that's where we're at. Cool. I know what I need to know going into this pay-per-view.
That's the point where I'm getting at, even with gaming, is like, Dylan last year would be like freaking out at the fact that he's jumping from game to game, even though I would still do it. But I'm finally starting to get comfortable with it because it's like, it's finally hitting me that like, dude, life's too short. Like, play what you
Yeah.
want when you want. If you're in the middle of playing something, you're like, I'd rather do this.
You
now.
could say life is strange.
You could say life is strange. That's a good
That's
game.
a video game I'm aware
That's
of.
a video game Matt's played.
No, I haven't played it. I'm
Never
just
played
aware it
Just aware
exists.
it exists. Oh my God, I love it. But back to the original question, I chose this episode because of it being like more heartwarming than anything. I didn't choose it because it was funny.
I mean, that's going to be the theme for most of November and
Yeah.
December, I think.
It made
is
me
like,
want to watch The Simpsons. So
Yeah.
I do need to eventually, and I don't want to do like you and I do things where we're like, I'm going to sit here and watch all of these. I'm just going to gradually, like, I'll watch an episode here, an episode there. That's how we've been doing Bob's Burgers recently. Like, we'll just throw a couple episodes on and walk away.
I had no clue that they were on like season 16. Like, I was like,
dude, we put it on Hulu, and I'm like,
I thought they were like 7 seasons
I
tops.
just wanted
Like,
to watch the episode. Everyone knows the episode where Lynn puts her Christmas tree up the day
Yeah.
after Halloween. I was like, we need to watch that because that's how I'm feeling today.
Yeah.
So we're watching that, and I'm like, what? Holy season 16. Oh my
Yeah.
God. I'm scrolling down. It's like, I like the way that Trey Parker and Matt Stone do it because I feel like they're like, we don't have any ideas. We can't put out a season yet.
Yeah.
Like, let's just hold off on this.
Well, and I also like that Trey and Matt keep it short.
Yep.
You can at least keep a show going long and not getting stale. It's a lot harder when you're doing like these 22 episode seasons like
Yeah.
The Simpsons and stuff where it's like, dude, you've had to come up with like 760 fucking storylines.
Yeah.
Like, of course it's going to get stale. No one can be that interesting for 769 episodes. That's why our hard cutoff is 365 episodes.
365, which we're rapidly approaching, and it's kind of
I know.
horrifying. Like,
I know.
when I sat down and thought about it.
We'll get to like 350 and be like, all right, maybe we'll like Robert Kirkman it suddenly. We'll be like, all right, we'll keep going. We'll go to 400 episodes.
We're gonna be,
There's still more Christmas stuff to talk about.
You know, I always sneak one in every episode. We're gonna be like ICP. Hey, at the end
There
of
you
these 6 Jokers cards, we're done. We're not gonna do anything lame like a second deck.
Oh, we found a second deck.
Oh, I dreamed about 6 more cards. But back to the fucking Simpsons.
Yeah, back to The Simpsons, back to Christmas.
It's just amazing. It just makes me so happy.
What's the part that made you cry? I want to know that part.
I love Homer getting home and finally admitting, like, I didn't get my Christmas bonus. I just wanted to make Christmas happen because I feel like in recent years since living on my own, this has been me every holiday where I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm going to pull this off.
I literally had to say no to a friend who was like, hey, do you want to be part of our like white elephant celebration this year? And I was like, I can't. Like right now, hit me up next year. But like this year, I can buy stuff for my direct family and no one else. And that kills me because
Same.
I was like, yo, let me send Christmas cards to like 200 people. Let me like try to buy a gift for every person who's ever said a nice word to me. Like I would be so gung ho and I would drop like $1,000 in December on people. But now it's like, okay, I'm allocating about $300 for like my direct family. And that is all I can risk.
Exactly. So I really identified with Homer in this episode, not having like the full family like Homer does, but that feeling of I want to give everyone a great Christmas, but I don't have the money to give everyone a great Christmas. And it's
But you know what the solution to that is?
Get a dog.
I've learned.
Get him a dog.
No, don't get him a dog. Hey, we're not talking about Sia this year, but yo, don't get someone a dog for Christmas. I've found that like my best way to do that is to be like, hey, we're gonna do like a Christmas themed weird ass movie night. Like, come over and we're gonna watch like these 3 like fucked up Christmas horror movies. And like, hey, like we used to do, and maybe I'll revive it this year, but for a couple years we used to do inspired by Pee-wee's Christmas special. And his inability to say Feliz Navidad, he kept saying Feliz Navidad. We would throw our Feliz Navidad party, which was on Christmas Day.
Wow.
But it was at night. So we would all get together at my house at like 8 p.m.
Okay.
After everyone had done their Christmas stuff with their family. And we would make tacos and watch all of the old Christmas specials that we grew up watching in like the 80s and early 90s.
Yeah.
And like, that was it. You know, it cost me a packet of meat and some like taco shells. Yeah, I mean, it was like maybe a $30 investment to feed like 15 people and just watch stuff and feel merry and have like the little fireplace going and like make cups of cocoa and coffee and just have like a really nice, like, those are the things that people remember way more than whatever gift you gave them.
It's true. I mean, we talked about last year, sitting around with my family playing board games and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's the shit.
I absolutely adore that.
My number one New Year's Eve memory will always be playing Settlers of Catan for like 3 hours and almost missing the ball drop because we were fighting over trading ore.
I absolutely love it. Honestly, we haven't talked much about the episode itself, but there's
not a lot there.
There's not a lot there for the episode itself.
And I would imagine that 99% of the people listening to this have seen this episode. So whatever references we made, they're like, yeah, I remember that. I felt bad. Talking about like the moments that you're like, oof, I feel that. Like Homer just doing whatever he can to find gifts. So he's buying like a squeaky dog toy for Maggie because he's just like, whatever, she's a baby. She won't know.
Like, I do love the bit that every time Maggie's on screen, she's falling. Like,
yeah. That's definitely like that old Simpsons humor of like every time you cut to Maggie, she falls.
Yep.
Like every
Marge
single
is
time.
on the phone. Maggie's walking now. Step, step, step. Crack. Step, step, step. Crack.
It's the best part of when a baby starts walking is watching a baby fall.
Watch them fall.
I love it.
And I love that, like the star costume that she's in.
Yeah.
Like, the jacket.
God.
It's so good.
The character designs of this, even from back then, are fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
I love them.
They're great.
But yeah, Simpson, good pick. I'm glad we did this. You know, it's almost putting a little spark in my heart to talk about some more Matt Groening Christmas specials. If you're into it, maybe next week.
I'm definitely down to talk about more Matt Groening Christmas specials into next week. What's funny is like the thing we're talking about this week and the thing we're talking about next week, I didn't grow up watching. So, like, I've watched The Simpsons. I don't want anybody to think I've never seen The Simpsons before. But I didn't grow up constantly watching The Simpsons. Just like our pick next week, I saw for the very first time last night.
I'm hoping for good news for me. But until next week, Merry Christmas, Dylan.
Merry Christmas, Matt.
Oh, whoa, oh, oh, now we won't stop till the big ball drops on New Year's. Have a happy holly, have a great, great, great holly, have a merry, 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 happy holiday.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network. You're listening to the Geekscape Network.